Push for glass for, I deserve the better things. Niggas with no money, like money isn't everything. I'm having a good time, they just trying to ruin it. Shout out to the fact that I'm the youngest nigga doing it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Unpopular Opinion. I am your host, Robert Williams, aka The Free Will. Joining me today are my co-hosts.
It's Big Bobby in the building. Nice to meet y'all today, you know.
Please stop clapping.
I can't clap.
What's up, y'all? It's Dubs.
You already know what it is, man. Why y'all? You see how why they always gotta do that? Why they always gotta do that?
You called the Birdman hair clap? You already know what it is. Today's episode is titled Activism in Hip Hop. So, before we get into the topics, real quick, right now, who y'all top 5 greatest artists of all time?
Ooh.
I'll go first. Wayne, J, Pop.
That's 3.
That's 3. Tip. I would have to say Jeezy.
Jeezy?
Alright.
That's my
Charles Gambino.
Oh shit.
Charles Gambino. Jeezy. Biggie. Smino. 100,000 years ago.
My top 5 greatest of all time: Hove, Andre. There's a lot of people better than Pac though, but I'm gonna put Pac in there. Wayne, and then I'm gonna say, who can I put up there? What am I gonna say?
You're not gonna say it? You're not gonna say it?
I'm gonna say Lauryn Hill.
And you have the audacity to wear a Dreamville shirt.
Oh, you got the audacity.
He in my top
He
in my top 5
of all time.
Of all mother in time.
Crazy thing is,
All right.
Yeah, Aaliyah, Pac, Alicia Keys, Lauryn Hill, and J. Cole.
So activism in hip hop, activism is basically hip hop in itself is activism. There's not really anything in hip hop that doesn't revolve around activism, advocating for the culture, talking about what's going on in our communities, because the best way to hear it rough, raw, and rugged, and just for what it is to listen to it through hip hop. So that's like what happens.
Talk your shit. Talk your shit.
I mean, for real, like that's what it is. Like and then it's so sad because when hip hop got appropriated is when we started getting appropriated. So now we about to get real down to the nitty gritty. So the first question that we got for the panel today is: do we need more activism in hip hop, or should it stay exclusive to a select few artists?
I'm gonna say
there we go.
I'm gonna say that we do need more, but I don't think everybody should be talking about or trying to be an activist in hip hop.
I feel you on that.
Because the reason why we need more is because of what you hear on the radio. You're not hearing nothing that's talking about anything that we're supposed to be hearing right now, right? We're hearing about bullshit.
Okay.
Yeah, just flat out bullshit. So I would say that we just need more of we need more of it, but at the same time, we gotta keep less is more of us. Like
Yeah,
Jason.
I would agree to that.
Yeah.
I think that everybody should be talking about it. I think it should be more prominent in people's music and people's songs. I don't think that should be exclusive, but I do think the people who are representing us when it comes to going and talking to these politicians or going and doing something about it should remain exclusive to. I think that the culture kind of selects who we feel, and like I feel like just in a respect factor as the hip hop culture in people who aren't in our culture, they respect it more coming from people who've had great success, such as Hove, such as Meek, but I don't necessarily think it's exclusive to that, because I feel like if you gain a platform, you can use it in any way you deserve. So if you as a person, like whether you just dropped your hit record or not, but we have to be exclusive in the sense that Blueface Baby can't come out and be like, oh, I'm all for women empowerment and then rap the shit that he's rapping on songs. You know what I'm saying? So it has to
accountability.
You have to be held accountable. If that's what you're going to represent with your platform and with your brand, you have to then continue that through your music.
I understand that you don't agree with Blueface, saying something about supporting women.
Blueface Baby.
But him saying it will still give it catches somebody's ear that needs to hear this. Yeah, let's say, okay, my favorite rapper Blueface, I hit him, now he's changing a different tune. Like, you know what? Let me chill out. You feel me? Even though it's not common for him to say it, but if he does say it, he's helping somebody out.
That's fair. that's
a
fair
great point, though.
because even with the stuff that happened with X
I was literally just about to say
before Triple X Tentacion died and he was really just trying to get his life together, was coming out he had a really good solid mythology behind his madness. Like even when talking about when he was cutting the eyebrows, looking all kind of weird, it was like you could still have a purpose regardless of what you look like. And then if I know I did wrong and I'm trying to make up for it, don't, crucify me when I'm already trying to repay my sins. You feel me? So I feel you on that. I feel you on that.
Yeah, that's true. I believe in that. But again, with going back to what I was saying, you still have to hold yourself to some accountability. Yes, okay, if Blueface just magically happens to do this, not specifically to Blueface, sorry to him if he ever sees this.
Hey, I mean,
but right, yeah,
Blueface, baby.
But yeah, you just have to be held accountable. You have to then change in all forms, which includes your music, because I think music in itself is activism. Hip hop in itself, so many kids listen to hip hop. So many kids are fascinated with it. What they hear is what they're at the ages where they're developing their personalities. So if you're going to advocate for mental health or advocate for non-gun violence, I don't want to hear shit about your Glock 9 in your passenger seat when you...
Where it got messed up at is that now it's so easy to make money from hip-hop. You know what I'm saying? People aren't getting into hip-hop because it's something that they've been loving since they were a kid, or a passion of theirs.
It's more the market. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Which I know you said you want to talk about it, so that was a beautiful segue, because a follow-up I wanted to ask for this one was, since we do know that there are some celebrities, some hip-hop artists, and just people in their own respects and entertainment who actually do activism, let's name a couple. I want to start with YB and Cordae, because he actually did mention that in one of his interviews where he talked about... You haven't caught? All right. One of the most recent ones I watched, I forgot who it was.
Big Boy?
It might have been Big Boy, because he was talking about
but I didn't get to watch it.
He says something people know what to do to get the platform. So when you cut up, you act up and do whatever. But it's when you get here, it's if people know being stupid is what's gonna help them pay their bills, feed their mom and do all this other stuff. And it's you can't get mad at them for what they're doing, because I'm not a firm believer of the ends justify the means. But if they taking care of what they need to handle, then I respect them for it. But we do have artists who are in their communities and who are full-blown activists. So we can go, if y'all got somebody I want to go and just talk about. I know first, with the greatest respect, rest in peace, Nipsey Hussle. Nipsey was known more for his activism than he was his music, which speaks volumes, because ain't nobody really been bumping him until he passed away, which that's another subject in itself. But he was somebody where he built that community in Los Angeles. He was with employing inmates, and he was all about not even just the crime reform and different stuff with police brutality, but he was... Yeah, for real. Nah, for real. But Nip was real. He was real. We always talk about when people get famous, they leave their communities and they don't give back. But in essence, he was killed for giving back, because
he was doing what Tupac was really talking about.
He was doing, he was. He came in with that mindset. He promoted it. When you go back and listen to the music, he never left.
He bought that whole bit out.
Yeah, he just bought it.
And I think that's beautiful. What Hov said on 444, don't cry over the neighborhood that your mama renting. Buy back the neighborhood. That's how you rent it.
Yeah.
So that's literally trademark what Nipsey did. And then we got a couple other artists who've done stuff like Rihanna, with everything she's been doing overseas. You want to go ahead and talk about
Barbados? Shout out to Barbados.
All right.
Oh my God.
We're not gonna make this a flag thing, okay?
You know what?
I was gonna mention her, but we mostly said hip hop, and
well, she's done a lot for hip hop.
She's opened doors for not only musical artists, but has opened doors in the modeling community and the fashion community, and allowing women of color to be recognized with Louis Vuitton and Gucci and all these people. Even as early as her modeling career, she was doing high cover fashion models, you know what I'm saying, as herself, as a Bayesian woman. She's been opening doors, and she just continues to, even in the cosmetology business. There's never been someone on her level that has opened doors. And regardless if you say, oh, she was famous before she got there because of her fame, no, because you could be a musical artist. That does not mean the fashion world is going to approve you into their as deep as or respected. Yeah, you're not. And
the fashion
mean you're
world
be
is what's getting her to help build those schools and fix up those schools overseas.
Right.
Shout out to you.
Yeah, no,
sure.
facts.
So stop pressuring her about this album, y'all. Like, dang.
No, I want that album. I want that album.
We definitely want that
I want that album.
I was gonna say Chance the Rapper. He has really been putting in a lot to his community in Southside Chicago. He recently donated like $1 million to all their public schools. He's donated $1 million to their mental health funding for the South Side of Chicago based off of the tragedies and stuff that people, because there's been hella killing, of course, working with the mayor and upcoming candidate for crime reform and all that stuff. And then what else did he do? He was really heavy in the Black Lives Matter protest, and he's been out here,
Majority of his work has been focused around school and gun control. So that's
the youth.
You touched on it, but yeah, it's mostly just the youth. He started a lot of performing arts up in Chicago too. Restarted and just birthed more performing arts programs in Chicago with the schools that were being shut down. So like, big shout out to Chance.
So one person I would like to discuss, which is really old, is Stevie Wonder. I just recently found out that he made a Martin Luther King song, and that song he made was for them to make his birthday a national holiday.
Wow.
So that was really dope.
So thank you, Stevie Wonder.
Thank you, Stevie Wonder.
For MLK Day.
Now I'm gonna run through a couple. We didn't touch on one of the most common ones that we've known, Akon. Akon has a project called Akon Lighting Africa. That's what the work that he's been doing. We're building the solar panels. So we got Birdman with Young Money. Yes, with Young Money for the past like 18 to 20 years. You don't gotta like the people. Doesn't change the fact that they're activists.
So he's an activist, but he don't pay his artists.
Hey, we're talking about what he's doing for the community though. For the past 18 years, with him and Young Money, what they've done, they've spread it from New Orleans to New York City, and I believe in Miami too.
Now they're in the West Coast too.
And now they're in the West Coast too.
So,
okay. So boom.
He's Cash Money?
I didn't even know that. But still, what he does is every Thanksgiving, they do medical examinations, blood tests, and all these different excerpts for people in the community. And they also hand out food trucks and back to school supplies. So they've been doing that for like a good 20 years running.
I do want to touch on J. Cole. Sorry, I didn't mean to steal your shine. I know you have the Dreamville shirt on, blah, blah, blah. But I just wanted to touch on him because what I thought of in his activism, and I brought it up before, was through the music. Mm-hmm. And I think KOD is an activist.
That was a mental health
album. Like, that in itself. But it was directed at children, at the youth. And I think that in itself is very powerful because kids are doing drugs in like middle school, which is mind blowing to me because us growing up, I don't feel like I really knew about drugs like that. I mean, yeah, but kids are popping Xans. You don't understand. Like, kids are popping Xans. Kids are popping perks. Kids are drinking lean. Kids are doing anything that they can get their hands on and growing up too fast. And he wanted you to understand that even when you grow up and you get there, it's still not going to be worth it. Like, focus on your mental health now. Get into the discipline of meditating and dealing with your problems that aren't alcohol, drug, partying based, and learn how to deal with it early. If I would have had something like that or somebody tell me that earlier in my life, like 14, 15, 16, a lot of things would have been avoided. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, not thinking of healthy ways to, when we were growing up, there wasn't no mental health activism. Like, people didn't tell you how to deal with the way that you felt. You just felt it. And growing up in a Spanish house, we don't really talk about that. Like, it's not something, or black, any person of color. So to have one of my favorite musical artists be the one to tell me how to work out my feelings and my anger, especially in your adolescence. You feel so much during that time frame that I just felt like that in itself, regardless of what he's done outside of that specific thing in itself, to me, put him up there on my activism list, just because he's targeting the youth and he's targeting mental health and he's targeting drug problem. And I work as a pharmacy tech. Like, I see it. And even these parents are putting their kids on Xanax and antidepressants and all this stuff so early where they don't even know who they are yet. How can you evaluate that I'm some way when I'm not even myself?
The worst part is that it's like kids don't understand They just don't understand why they're doing the thing that they're doing.
But he painted a picture.
Like,
even me at this age, I was like, wow, like I didn't even think about doing that or thinking, you know what I mean? Like he opened doors for me.
There's many different forms of activism, right? So one way to advocate is when we have people who are going out here and rebuilding their schools, or when we got people like Snoop, The Game, Nipsey, they're over here doing gang reform and trying to rebuild communities. And then Meek Mill too, even with Meek and Remy Ma as well, with prison reform and trying to educate inmates more. And
especially going through it as a
going through it as
Remy Ma is big on prison reform for sure.
So and then even we got a whole list of other people. Common, and he got his foundation. Common has a foundation. 50 has put a lot into the schools and just buying I know 50 be trolling people about like everybody owe him money, but
he's out here though.
50 been out here putting on for his communities as well. Queen Latifah has done a lot of projects with Oprah, as far as with women outreach. We also got Dr. Dre, Cube, and then they do similar things that Tyler Perry does as well, just trying to bring in young creatives and get them started with their artistry, not necessarily in music, but also in film and production.
That's something I wanted to talk about too, though, with the creatives part, because Joe Budden.
Yeah, Joe Budden.
No,
Joe
Budden
does Joe Budden is a big advocate for activism.
Yeah,
he puts out his information. He lets people know what's going on in the industry, and regardless of the BS that people try to clown him for, he's out here talking and presenting the information.
He's preaching ownership. Like that's something that black people as a whole do not.
Don't nobody like to talk about ownership.
Okay, I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm not saying he's not a phenomenal artist who helps, but I'm just saying, his content is.
Whatever. We don't care about his content right now. We ain't talking about your content.
Regardless if you like it or not, you have Charlemagne, you got Big Boy, but I feel like Joe Budden is really opening doors. Him doing what he did with Complex, that was a big thing.
That was pretty dope.
And as a black creative in that era of creating, it was a big thing to go off on his own and not use one of these major outlets to get out his content.
Shout out to hip hop's first billionaire, Hov. Everything that Hov has been doing.
Envy.
Him and then Beyonce, as far as Beyonce has always been pro-black. Everything that Beyonce does from her, and then like you mentioned this earlier about how people be what you preach. So when Beyonce is over here doing her videos, or even Hov, when he's talking about how black people need to come back and own their things, pass on generational wealth, you see it in their discography, you see it in their videos, you hear it whenever they speak. All they talk about is how we can own ourselves as a community, because right now we're still outselling ourselves to be owned by somebody else. So
know your worth, man.
Yeah.
They
so look up.
Know your worth.
Oh, Big Sean too. But I mean, like, there's a couple other people. I just say if you got your favorite artists, look into them and look into the things that they do. So, because that was a long time on the first one, it's also a good segue too. So the second question was, has activism in hip hop pushed us forward, or has it made people more asleep?
I think it's definitely pushed us forward. I think we really could tell that during Nipsey's death.
See, no. I'm gonna say no on that. But
yeah, I know where you're going.
No.
There's fake people. I know where both of you are about to go, because I've been on this show long enough to know that you both love to just stir the pot. But in reality, as somebody who never listened to Nipsey before hearing about him through his death, unfortunately.
Would it take somebody to die for you to listen to him and pay attention to their activism?
That's unfortunate, and that's unfortunate, and
yeah.
that's unfortunate. That definitely is a problem. But what I'm saying is, unfortunately, that part, that's no longer going to happen. That
it's
was
still happening, bro. Yo, real quick.
Banner, Killer Mike, Big Crit.
Yeah, Big Crit.
Yeah, all of them are doing exactly what Nipsey was doing, and nobody speaks about any of those people.
And what's so sad is it sets us back, because it's like, how many more tragedies we gotta have for people to get on their shit?
Wake up.
Like, I don't know if any of y'all know who Crispus Attucks is, but during one of the Revolutionary Wars, I know our camera girl's Kayla gonna fact check me, but Crispus Attucks was somebody who died during one of the starts of the war. I done got emotional, so I can't really get my thoughts together right now, so y'all forgive me. But basically, Crispus Attucks died, and a war started because of it. The equivalent that we have nowadays for Christmas addicts is Trayvon Martin. Nobody was really pushing this, like, as much as we were getting the press and everything else. When Trayvon died, boom, activists, marches, all this other stuff. Did it get anywhere? No, because now everybody wants to do a march for everything. Marches really don't solve stuff. I'm sorry. The marches, they're good in theory, but even Martin Luther King was like, I don't know if this thing working, dog. Like,
ownership should be at the top of the list. Ownership and unity should be at the top of the list. Know where you're spending your money at, and know who you're trying to lift up. You know what I'm saying? Because there's still people out here that want to keep buying J's, Nikes, all this bullshit all the time, but you're not spending money on the shit that actually matters, trying to build your communities.
So how do we do that? So how do we incorporate activism as far as how we spend our money? Well, how can we be activists when it comes to finances?
The shit that people are buying, like if you
just pay attention to
you buying. I'm not even gonna talk about you because I got one on right now. I got Urban Outfitters on, right? There's so many black clothing owners for clothing out here right now. There's so many people. You can look around everywhere you go. There's somebody that you probably know that has a clothing line. You know what I'm saying? Those are the type of things that we need to start doing.
So buying black-owned business, buying black.
But even not supporting or not spending your money at certain places. There was just a list released of certain companies that were supporting Trump's next campaign. If you don't support Trump, don't purchase things at those companies because your money is what's funding the people that they choose to support.
The setback is activism has become so commonplace that everybody thinks that I'm an influencer, I'm an activist, I'm doing this, so it's whatever I'm putting my money towards is basically what you're supporting. Because activism, in a sense, in its most basic, simplest form, is basically what do you support, how are you supporting it, and how are you going about applying it. Yeah. So go ahead.
All right, so that's the question. I feel like it made us more asleep because if I'm listening to everybody being activist, like, okay, they got it. Then I could chill and, listen to whoever I want to listen to. And
Obama syndrome. That's Obama syndrome. We got somebody in there, so he got it already.
Yeah.
He got it.
I don't got to do it.
And we all need to be doing it.
And at the same time, if he doing it, you better make sure that I'm taken care of. That's
We're not taking care of ourselves. That doesn't make any sense.
It has to be. It's being done on a big scale with Hove, with Meek, with Remy Ma, with all these celebrities that are pushing forward to help the communities. But we live in these communities. We eat, sleep, and drink in these communities.
But that's why Moxie is like.
Shout out to Loud Gallery.
Loud Gallery is like. That shit is only in the beginning.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? For what it's
seriously,
about to do
and
black creatives in Orlando, and you know what I'm saying? Like,
I grew up here. We never had anything like this, and for the people that came to, like, it takes, and people aren't gonna know that Loud is what it's doing until that one person from Loud pops, and then people go, oh, they came from Loud. Oh, what's this? But that's terrible. Yes, but even in your communities, things like that. Things like that, creating a space. If somebody in your community, hence our community, Loud Gallery, creating a space for black creatives, specifically for urban black creatives to go, to chill, to get inspired, to show their art, to be comfortable in that place, that in itself is building your community. You're building the people around you, the people who live there, supporting things like that, things in your homes, things in your hometowns, like building things like that. That's activism in itself.
Activism is bullshit. It's a lost cause in itself. Stop waiting for somebody to do something and just do it.
True.
Straight up. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's been. Ooh, man, we was really into it today. Thank you for watching The Unpopular Opinion. Again, I am your host, Robert Williams, aka The Free Will.
Hi, I'm Big Bobby.
We got Clapping Bobby over here.
Okay.
we got Dubs, and we got Hove.
Alright, y'all, we out.
What's
Peace.
Do it again.
Bro, I'm done. Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll see y'all later. Peace.
Bye, guys.
Yellow